Hey guys, just going here and let's take a peek of what is inside of the May 2026 Crafters Crate box. Of course, you're going to have a note from us that has the reminder on where to find this video as well as your club discount code. And then you're going to have the main parts to our project. So one of them is going to be all shrink wrapped like this. You're going to have our USA shelf sitter. You're also going to have a set of 3 pieces of wood that are all cut that have little holes in the top of them because we're going to be turning them into firecrackers, and we've got to have somewhere to put the wick, if you will. You're going to have 2 pieces of stencil material. One of them is going to have all kinds of little stars on it in a couple different sizes. The other one is going to have a set of stripes for you to use. You're also going to have some odds and ends type pieces. So you're going to have a piece of thick jute, a piece of thin jute, 2 pieces of raggy fabric that I ended up not using in the project once I completed mine, but I wanted to include them in there just in case you wanted them as well. You're going to have a little wood tag that says Freedom Fireworks Stand, sparklers, bottle rockets, and fountains. And then in there you're also going to find 3 sponges to paint with, an extra sanding block for distressing, and then you're going to also have red and blue paint to use on your project. Believe it or not, these little pieces are plenty for your project. I barely made a dent in mine, and you'll see that as we get into it. You are also going to want to grab your subscription goodie bag that's got your brushes, your white and stain. What else did I use from in here? The pick tool, a couple of different things. So you're going to want to grab that as well. And then I do recommend having a pair of scissors handy as well as something that you can rinse your brushes in, so some water. But let's go ahead and get to creating the project, and I think this one's super cute, and I'm excited to put it on my Patriotic shelf. All right, let's get started. I've got all my pieces laid out, and I've got my Crafters Crate subscription bag ready to roll. All right, so I'm going to start off with some of my white paint. This will be in your little canvas bag. I'm going to put a little bit of it on a plate here, and then I'm going to use my flat brush to base coat my firecrackers. I'm going to paint all 4 sides on all 3 crackers because we're going to be doing a reverse stencil technique essentially on the other 2, my red one and my blue one. But I do want to base coat them all in white. I'm using a little bit of water here just to help the paint spread better, just add some fluidity to it. And then I'm going to flip over and do the other sides too. Now, this part is not super fun to watch. It's much like watching paint dry, so I'm going to speed this part of it up just a little bit, or a lot of it. I wish I could paint this fast. I can make so many cool things. Anyway, so I've got this one base coated. I'm just going to give it a little bit more here and there. And then I'm going to get ready to paint these 2. Now, if you have any rough spots, you can totally take your sanding block and smooth it out. All right, now I've got all of them base coated on the sides. I'm going to paint the top of my shortest one. The other 2, though, I'm going to leave alone. But now we're going to get into how the stenciling part works. So on my medium-sized one, I'm going to use these kind of sticker stripes. These are the same stencil vinyl we use. And I'm going to stick one just at the top as my starting point. And then I'm going to take my next stripe and I'm going to put it down underneath it. I'm butting up right along there. And unlike the original one, I'm going to wrap this one all the way around. You could trim it if you don't want to overlap it, but you don't have to. Oops, adjust that just a little. There we go. So I'm going to set that one down. Now I'm going to go back, smooth it out just a little first. I'm going to go back and take my, yep, this happens sometimes. Don't mind me. All right, so I'm going to take that original piece again. I'm going to put it underneath my first one, just butt it up right against it, and take my next stripe and put it on there. The one that I'm not sticking all the way down is working just kind of as a spacer piece to get my stripes spaced out. You can do the same process with painter's tape, washi tape, all kinds of different stuff. But I wanted to make sure we had the right size stripes all together, so I cut them out of stencil material. But again, I'm going to wrap that one as well, and then I'm going to put my last one down underneath here. Space it one more time, take my last stripe, put it on place, and then wrap this one around as well. All right, so now I've got all my stripes on there. I'm going to take my red paint and one of the sponges, and I'm going to dab in wherever the white parts are because that's the exposed parts. These are going to become our red stripes, and of course what is covered will be white. I do think using the sponge on this part works better than using the brush, only because the brush tends to kind of push the paint up underneath the stencil, and that, of course, is not what we want. So tap this all around. I'm going to tap the top of this with the red paint, which is why I didn't bother painting it white. and getting all of my sides. Now I'm going to go through, I'm going to paint between all the stripes, and ta-da, done. I'm going to peel my tape off. I probably should let this dry a little bit longer, but I'm anxious. And I will reveal my nice little white stripes. Get all of these off. Right now it's looking a little like a candy cane. But of course, when we pair it with the right stuff, it won't look like a candy cane anymore. But that would be a super cute project to get into. All right, on to our largest one, which is where I'm going to use the stars. And I'm going to stick the stars on just kind of wherever. I'm going to wrap them around the sides, have them just centered on there, and it's up to you. You can get as many stars on there or as few as you want, but I covered my whole thing. I really like the stars, clearly. Anyway, so I'm going to take my blue paint now, get this one opened up, and just like with our red stripes, I'm going to use the sponge to dab, dab, dab the paint all around. And of course, on this one, we're going to cover the entire thing on all the sides to leave our white stars behind. I will say there's something about our blue paint I feel like, and blue in general, I feel like I usually have to do 2 coats to get it really, really nice and thick, but we're gonna make this one look cool. Now, if you're going for a more distressed look, you wouldn't have to do the whole thing, of course, but I want to start off with a solid coat and then distress down. All right, so we'll flip to the side and paint the other sides of it, but again, we're just going to coat the entire thing in the blue paint. Now, this is with 1 coat. I am going to put a 2nd coat of the blue paint to make it a nice thick layer, but it's kind of up to you, personal preference. All right, I like that better. This is after the 2nd coat. Now I'm going to use my little weeding tool, which is in your canvas bag as well. Put the 3 pieces together and it makes it's supposed to be like a toothpick, but we use it as a weeding tool. And I'm going to pick just at the corners of the stars to help peel them up. Now this might be your deciding factor on whether you want a ton of stars like me or just to put a couple of them on there. But I've got a little bleedy spot and I'm going to use just the edge of my pick to kind of scrape the extra blue away. I'm going to end up distressing it when I'm done, so even those little bleedy spots you won't really notice. Ta-da! My stars are all peeled. My stripes are ready. They're all painted, but I am going to show you a couple ways to distress them, either using the sanding block or using some stain, and we'll get in that in just a second. All right, so let's jump back though. We're going to paint our little USA piece and our tag for our firecrackers. I'm going to be staining part of this, so I'm going to grab my stain from the canvas bag, and I'm going to actually cheat and put this right onto my project because it tends to soak into the paper. I'm going to use my chip brush to help spread it out. Now, if you wanted it lighter than this, you just apply a little bit less or even mix a little bit of water with your brush to smooth it all out. Brush this on here though, a little bit more. And spread it out. If you ever find that your stain feels sticky, it usually means that you have too much on there. Shake it up pretty good, add some water, and that helps a ton. Now with this little part, you definitely could paint it, but I'm going to stain it. All right, put some on the paper. I'm going to stain it. It lets the lettering show through really, really well. If you're going to paint, you're just going to want to paint very light layers and definitely dab instead of swipe. But I think I like the stain tag on the white firecracker. All right. So that little guy is ready. Now I'm going to stain the back part of my board, and I'm going to stain the whole thing because there's parts that show through where the stars are in the letters. So a lot of times I skip doing the inner parts if there's going to be 3D, but this one needed it all the way across the whole thing. So I'm going to let those guys dry. I'm going to put a little bit more stain on that, and then I'm going to work on my letters. Now, if you have a sponge that has got dry, funky paint, just snip the end of it off. And then it's like using a whole brand new sponge. We do this all the time in the studio. I have a whole bucket of semi-used sponges that I reuse. I have our kids use those if they're going to paint, and then I feel less wasteful. But I'm just dabbing my paint on here, trying to focus primarily on painting just the face of my project. If you want to get down in the nook and crannies, you definitely can. I will not be doing that. All right, so these guys are painted and everything is nice and bright. Now, if you like the bold, bright, you can definitely leave them exactly as is, but I like distressing things. So I'm going to start by distressing my little tag. And if I'm taking stain off, I like to focus primarily on the corners. So sort of where those angled pieces are on the edges of my tag, I'm just kind of brushing right along the edge of those and a little bit over the top. You'll notice more distressing along the corners. Same as on this with the white, it's kind of tricky to see, and that's why we're going to end up using stain for it. But on these, since we've got the white underneath the red, when I distress it, it reveals some of that white and even some of the wood all the way underneath. Again, though, I am primarily focusing on my corners and my edges to bring that color out. Get some over here, and I just kind of sand at an angle. Again, this is all optional. I just like the way it looks. I'm going to get all my edges all the way around. Down on this corner and the top part. All the way through. Now you could use, if you have sandpaper handy, you could use a higher grit sandpaper that's going to take more off too, but I want just subtle. Now with my blue, I'm going to do kind of the same thing. I'm going to focus on my edges, but I am going to take a little bit through the middle parts too, especially since we have so much, white spots where the stars are, and it'll help kind of distress next to those. This is why earlier I said if I had a little bleedy spot here or there, I wasn't too worried about it because I was going to rough up the whole thing anyway. This part, along that top edge, really work it in there. A little more off here and there. And I'm going to go over the whole face of it, just lightly. It just gives it some character. And comes out pretty cool though. Now with my letters, again, I'm primarily focusing on my outside edges. So I'm just going to kind of twist the letter as I go. And I do just a little bit on the inside and across the face of it. It just dulls it out a little bit and makes it look cool. Do the same with my blue letter. Just a little bit here and there. And then get some of the inside part and across the face of it. And then we'll do the rest of our stand piece too. I really like how it looks with the stain pieces. It just takes some of that shine away from it if you like the more kind of dull and rustic look to it. There we go. All right, so for my white pieces, we are going to use a little bit of stain. Oof, forgot I got to brush it. Let me dry this out really good. Wipe, wipe, wipe. All right, so we just want to get all of I'm not so much getting the stain out of it. I'm just trying to dry it a little bit more so it doesn't have too much. I'm going to pour a little bit of stain on my paper here. I mean, we're talking tiny bits. And I'm going to tap my brush into it, and then I'm going to take the excess off. I don't want too much stain. And I'm just flicking kind of in from the edges. You'll see it's just this really subtle little line. But then I'll go real light over across the top of it when I have very little stain left and work my way around it. Again, if something were naturally worn, it's going to be primarily on the edges. So I do focus a lot on making sure that I take paint around the edges, or in this case, stain. Now with my S, I'm going to cheat and just kind of go across it, and it's going to pick up some random little spots here and there. And then I'm going to take just a tiny bit, whatever's left on my brush, and kind of go over the white in these areas, just so that it kind of matches with everything. Same with this one. I mean, it's barely marking anything, but just enough to make it count. All right, so now it is time to add the fuse to our little firecrackers. You'll have two sizes of jute in the kit. There's thin and thick. For this part, we're going to use the thicker jute. And I'm just kind of eyeballing about how long I want my pieces of string. So I'm going to get these and just snip them. These do not have to be perfect. Not at all. But I've got 3 pieces of it, and I'm going to open up my glue, and I'm going to put some down just into the hole of the firecracker and just kind of twist and push the jute down into that glue. Now, do you have to glue them? No, but here's what's going to happen. You're going to put these away, the jute's going to fall out, and then you've got to hunt more down for next year. So just glue them in there and hold them in place. Just kind of twist it down in there and tuck it. And finally, I'm going to do my last one. A little bit in there. And again, we're going to kind of go in from an angle if you're having a hard time getting it to go in, and just sort of twist down. And there's my little pieces. Now I'm going to trim those a little bit. Now that I've got them in place, I want them just a little bit shorter. A little bit more on this one. Let's see. Which way do I want my fuse to go on the red one? Kind of flip around and play with them because they're going to have some bend and some give to it. But now I'm going to take my thinner jute and I'm going to tie it into my tag. So I'm folding it in half. I'm going to tuck it from the front to the back. And then I'm going to open up the loop on the back side and pull my strings through it. That's how I do ornaments too. But we're going to put that on there. And then I'm going to decide where exactly I want this to sit. I did put some scrap fabric in there if you want to make a little bow. The easiest way is to make sort of like, oops, let's bundle these up nicely. Make sort of like a memorial ribbon. And then take the top part and tuck it down. And then in the between there, you can tie it closed either with some extra jute. I haven't decided if I'm going to actually use it or not, though. I don't know. I like the way it looks. I'm going to put it in the bag. It's up to you to decide if you want to use it or not. But I am going to tie my strings around my small firecracker. I'm just going to tie them in a little knot. 1 and 2 loops. and trim the excess off back here. Oops, there we go. And I've got that little piece. I want my tag to kind of hang over to the side though, so I'm gonna cheat and use a little bit of wood glue, put just a little dot underneath there, press it down in place, and once that glue sets, it'll help my tag just kind of sit over to the side instead of hanging straight down. Now I could use some of this extra jute to loop around the bow, but I'm still not entirely sure if I want to use one on this. I'm going to fray this out so I have just a little skinny piece of jute and wrap, let's see, fluff this out, wrap this piece around here. Ooh, I wonder if it'd be cute if I frayed out the jute on the top of my firecrackers. I think that'd be cute too, the little fuses. I don't know, we'll see. All right, snip these, play with the tails, push the pieces around, pull up my little ears here, fluff it just a little bit and put that. It's cute, but I don't know. For the first time in forever, I think I've decided against the bow. I'm going to get my letters glued down on my main project piece here. I'm going to line it up with those score lines. When I put this on, I'm just putting little dots of glue along the back side of it. You don't have to coat the whole entire thing, but if you do have some pop out, it's going to be a-okay. Get this side done, and then press this one down as well. And then it'll pop into my little stand. You ready to see it all together? All right, so let's put all of these on our nice little shelf to style them. Got my little stand-up piece. I've got my firecrackers, which I'm gonna put in a little trio of them, but you could definitely spread them around, say put them on either side of it, but I don't know, I like them as a little bundle. I picked up these Real Touch tulips at Home Goods that were white. I was looking for red flowers, but I came across these and they were pretty dang cute. So put them all together and this is what we've got. I am definitely going to have this on our shelves at home because if not, Rainy will steal them, but I love how they came out and I hope you guys enjoyed making this project too.